Apparently, the U.S. is getting the nukes out of storage. NATO in talks to put nuclear weapons back on standby, out of storage, pull them out, put them on trucks, put them on planes, and put them all over the world. Not a step that many people want to see. Of course, this is what the boss tells a UK Telegraph. NATO is in talks to deploy more nuclear weapons, taking them out of storage and placing them on standby in the face of a growing threat from Russia and China, the head of the alliance said on Monday. Jens Stoltenberg told Britain's Telegraph newspaper that they were live consultations between members to use transparency around its nuclear arsenal as a deterrent, essentially saying, we need to put our nukes everywhere and tell them where we're putting them and be out loud about it, because that is exactly what Russia is doing. Says, I won't go into operational details about how many nuclear warheads should be operational and which should be stored, but we don't need to consult on these issues. That's exactly what we're doing. Transparency helps to communicate the direct message that we, of course, are a nuclear alliance. NATO's aim is, of course, a world without nuclear weapons, but as long as nuclear weapons exist, we will remain a nuclear alliance. Because a world where Russia, China, and North Korea have nuclear weapons and NATO does not is a more dangerous world. Stoltenberg said last week that nuclear weapons were NATO's ultimate security guarantee and a means to preserve peace. People have argued over decades whether it is actual peace. It's crazy that basically that everybody has made so many weapons and so many bombs that's how we got peace, is because it's so much that if it was ever to be used, it would destroy the earth 5 times over, that the entire species of human beings would be wiped off the planet. It's really stupid if you think about it. If you stepped outside this and looked at humans in general, they're saying, so wait, to find peace, instead of somehow talking this out, they both made the largest bombs possible that if used, even if a percentage of these were used, then the entire species would die off. Like, even to step into that arena, to get past that point where you have enough of this lying around, even if you were to use it, and if that was the case, why would you ever create something knowingly, on purpose, that you would know that could destroy the world, even if you were in a spat with somebody else? Well, people say, well, if they're going to do it, then we have to do it. We can't let them do it without us doing it, which is exactly what he said. This has been said so many times. It's like, well, if China's doing it, we have to do it. This is what have driven both sides up. And I'm not saying there's a better way, and who knows if there's anybody that will be able to figure out a better way. But, think about it. That means that humans, as evolved as we think we are, the end-all solution is like, well, we'll kill you, basically. So we'll talk about this and much, much more. There's a lot of nuclear rumors right now. So we're going to either put them to rest or tell you which ones to be concerned about right now. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Let's go to Havana. I just want to go when I wanna. Mama, Papa, let's go to Havana. I just want to go when I wanna. Mama, Papa, let's go to Havana. All right, what is going on, guys? Welcome back. It is Marfoogle TV, and remember, you can find a full bibliography over on marfooglenews.com. Again, you'll just have to look for today's thumbnail, and you will be able to click on it to find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we are going to show you here today. No one will hear them coming. Of course, referencing one of the most terrifying subs Russia just released. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit. And of course, there's so much more to go over. So let's keep it going. China's nuclear weapons stockpile is growing faster than any other country, report says. This is actually something we've covered before, and it is something that they have claimed, something so alarming that it goes along with what our community said years ago. This was a rumor between military and folks that were, of course, in our small little groups, and talking about China. Before any article came out about this, about 2 years before, there were military members in our group that said that China was being watched because they were making nuclear weapons and nuclear silos. Then the news came out that they were not only they made like something like 300 silos in a short amount of time, but they wanted to catch up. I have said many times I believed that they were building not only I said that they were building Navy before they came out with that, and Air Force, and this is all because of Foogle fam members that were active and retired military, and this is, of course, information that a lot of soldiers that are serving around the world are now getting. They're getting the memo, right? But now it is official that China says that they're going to catch up to us by 2032 or 2030. To catch up to the U.S. in nukes, to catch up to either Russia or U.S. is absolutely insane. And in that short amount of time, that means they're building like there is no tomorrow. Dex, how fast are they growing, and what are they at now?
Wow. So they've got, it looks like they went up about 90 in just 1 year. But they have approximately 500 warheads, and that's what they estimate that they're at as of today. And if they're going to grow to have as many as the U.S., then they would have to reach about 3,700. I believe there's 9,585 operational in the world. 4,380 of those are Russian, and 3,708 of those are American. So they're moving pretty fast, though. The one thing they did say was that this report found that while everyone seems to be adding to the number of nukes, China is doing it at a much faster pace than anyone else.
Now, between Russia and the U.S., they had enough nukes. I would say 1,000 less than that on each side to destroy the entire planet. So now you have a third party. That means you have all, and by the way, there's all these other countries have dozens, if not hundreds. We're over in the thousands in the U.S. and in Russia, but China is catching up. And what's crazy is they say 90, but we don't know the actual number. China has been really good at hiding what they've been doing. Like when they were building their Navy ships, they were building them in either underground facilities or these specialized huge warehouses that had grass and actual land on top. I don't know if you remember the show where we showed you that, but they had these massive facilities that some of them were in the middle of the jungle, and they had cheap labor, but advanced technology making these things, and they were pumping out these ships, and these ships were being made basically in ground level. So they used this divot, and they made a huge facility that was almost at ground level. So from satellite, you would look down and you would see the ground. In fact, you wouldn't even see the divot or the moat that they were in, because they built the facility inside of it. And then they were producing these. So they could launch them out one at a time, and you would never even see that they were doing it. They're doing that with everything. And that's my theory on, too. If they are going broke, then it's because they're building so fast. Dex, go ahead.
Well, yeah, and the number of 90 is just last year, so from January to January. If they maintain that same level, they would only have 1,040 by the end of the decade. So if you added 6 more years to it, it would not bring them to the number that the U.S. has. So they're counting on them growing the production. And I think that's because they've seen the production grow, and they've seen the facilities that are producing them being built and being growing in size so that they can start building more and do it faster. So yeah,
It's
for them to reach
exponential.
3,700, yeah, it's exponential. For them to reach 3,700, they got to even do more than they're doing right now per year.
Yeah, so they built that with the facilities they have right now. At the same time, just like they're building the nukes, they're mass producing the facilities to produce even more. So you're going to have all three of these countries with just a massive amounts of nuclear weapons. And also, we covered that India is also stocking up on all of their stuff as well. You've got, of course, other countries that are stepping into the game, and other countries that are even asking Russia to support their nukes. And then we've already covered there are several places in Europe that are actually asking and saying, hey, we'll even host nukes. Sweden, am I correct, Dex? Sweden even said that they would host nukes. Like, Sweden, for gosh sakes. And I'm pretty sure that they said. And then I'm trying to remember the two other European nations that said they would host. There's actually
I thought Finland and of course the Baltic states all wanted them too, but I even think Finland said they would too.
Yep. And to host U.S. nukes, I mean, it's moving these strategic supplies around the world. It only forces the other side. Every side says the same thing. Well, they're doing it, so now we got to do it. I mean, it goes tit for tat, and maybe these are not tit for tat attacks, but they're tit for tat escalations, and then all of a sudden you have this powder keg, waiting to blow up. It's not good news. And then warning issued over North Korea's nuclear arsenal. All of this is happening at the same time. Like, I don't see how. I don't know. I feel like it's obvious that all of these countries are preparing for a coordinated thing. I feel like this is all going to be coordinated between China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, Venezuela, South African countries. There's all sorts of people that are all getting lined up. Who knows? Saudi Arabia. Who knows who else is going to be on their team? All of these nations that are just overjoyous for the BRICS system, that want to say goodbye to the U.S. or are starting to say, maybe we'll do it in the yuan or the ruble instead. Like, it's crazy that there are countries even, going off of the dollar, let alone trying to do most of their business without it. But every Rome has fallen. So hopefully that's not the case. By the way, thank you so much for a few people that just joined. Thank you so much, Randy Man. Thank you for rejoining. And then, of course, Kristen Ober, Dwayne Roberts. Thank you so much. Chewbacca 2020 and Robin Cochran and Jeremiah Reeves. Thank you. Bobby Sue, thank you for 6 months as a member. And then Linda C., thank you so much for your support. I appreciate that. Thank you, Dillinger, thank you so much for your support this week. Jen and Jam, Stephen McMahon, Craig Alicious, Carlton Sutton, Nevitz, Carol, Grace for you too, and of course Viv B, Tammy, and Gillian Mason. Thank you, and thank you. A special shout out to Danish Girl. Appreciate you for stopping by the other day. Thank you. All right, and then the issue, Dex, do you want to talk about what was actually issued and why this plays into it?
Exactly. So this report continues on as we talk about North Korea. They've gone from 30 to now 50 nuclear weapons just in the past year. So while nowhere near the number of, say, China has, but still for that country to grow from 30 to 50, that's a significant increase as you think of a percentage of what they had. Obviously, being a hermit nation, and somehow they're able to produce and continue to produce. And then the other interesting fact that they came out with is they said, based on the information that they are able to ascertain, they estimate that they do have even enough fissile material to reach a total of 90 warheads. So it's just a matter of production on their end and construction. So, this is all coming from this big research that was done around the nuclear arsenals around the world and the SIPRI numbers. And that's what they're telling us specifically as it relates to North Korea.
And all of these countries are setting up the framework beforehand. Let's go over to the chat here in just a second here. Thank you for everybody that has already popped in. Thank you, Cameron, KP, Mountain Man, Arm James, Resistance Homesteading, Lizard Hunter, Tim Run Rocket, Team Run Rocket. Thank you. North Korean can have 10 warheads in the next 24 hours. I don't know if that's an official stat, but that would not surprise me. Rocket Man would be turned to dust, says Dave Farley. Christian Mercer, nice to see you. Mama is ASAP. Sap, thank you. Scratch, Discordia, thank you. And let's see here. Ilea, thank you. Thank you for modding. I appreciate that. Make sure to go thank your Marfoogle mods over at marfooglenews.com/mods. All of their channels, their Amazons, in the case of Chance, he's got books over there. He's an author. All of their great comedy, all of their great coverage of the solar events, all of it is over at marfooglenews.com/friends. So thank your mods and throw them a subscribe. While you're at it, if you have not subscribed to us already, make sure to do that, and always click the all notification bell. That's telling them, that's basically you are making it hard for them to fiddle with your algorithm. Every channel you want to watch, do that too. Not just ours, but any channel. Because that's telling them, and you're putting it basically in writing, you're clicking it, you're agreeing, saying, hey, I want to see every single one of the videos. I want every notification. I don't want it 3 days late. You can't add that in, but again, that's what you are telling them. So if you want to decide for yourself what to watch, then make sure to do that for all your channels. And then before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. We've been warning about this for years. The first thing that anybody would do in any kind of conflict, if we get into a war, is they're going to try to turn off the lights. If you're in the U.S. or if you're in Europe or any other place that is directly involved in this, then I'd highly recommend getting an EMP shield on your car, because if you do want to get out to bug out or get home to bug in, then an EMP shield is going to be the thing that protects you. This is a device that grounds the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your device, and that's going to get you home to your family. Not only that, it's going to work over and over again and then get you to back to bug out. So this also works on generators. They make some for, of course, your cars, motorcycles, boats, RVs, motorhomes, your regular homes, and even your solar generator in the case of the Flex 1500 and the Flex Tactical from Energy. They actually have them in stock right now. That is the only solar generator you can get an EMP shield directly made for. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. It protects not only against an EMP strike from an adversary, which is one of the most possible out of all of the things that would happen from a country. It wouldn't be a nuke right off the bat. It would be something like this, which technically would be a nuke as well, but in the atmosphere. And this also protects you against solar events, so this would protect you against a Carrington-level event from the sun. So if you want your car to drive after it, then get one on it. I think it will save lives in the event of either, and in the case of the house version, it can even protect you against lightning. All right, and then Dex, North Korea building anti-tank barriers on its border.
Well, if this is not preparing for conflict, I don't know what is. They have begun barricading along the DMZ. There's been reports of clearings of foliage and other things, which you would assume would be more for defensive, to be able to see through and make sure that they've got, line of sight. And now they're talking about putting in anti-tank barriers. These have been right now. This is all coming from South Korea's Joint Chief of Staff. But presumably he's not making this up, because anybody can go look. But he's saying they've erected anti-tank barriers along the demilitarized zone of the Korean border in an act some south of the border fear could be preparation for war. So, we don't know how much of this may be just show, but I don't remember a time when Kim has actually done something like this. Usually he just wants to roll out equipment, show it off, fire missiles, make himself look powerful. This is more tactical. This is not something that you can just sort of chest beat with. This is like, we got to put a bunch of people out. We got to get a bunch of equipment out. We have to start placing this. It's a lot more work than just, let's go, test fire some rockets for fun. and show off how powerful we are. So this may be a little more insightful to at least the mindset that he's got at this moment. But it's also interesting to think that he thinks that he's going to be invaded, but because everybody thinks that he's going to be the one that instigates something with the South, which may in turn cause an invasion. I don't know, but it's not looking pretty at the moment.
So, and if you weren't following, the U.S. first did a drill out of nowhere. On top of their annual drill, they did a drill, and it was publicized in this plan. They did this drill where the hypothetical scenario in writing was compared to what happened to Israel on the 7th. They said a surprise attack would come over, or they would do an artillery strike into South Korea, and they were going to drill for that. So South Korea and the U.S. did this drill, essentially preparing for a first strike from North Korea. And the first strike could not only consist of people coming over, but artillery strikes first, then army and tanks and things coming in. And even possibly going in, doing some stuff, then going back. They practiced for that. Not too much further down the road. Of course, they didn't like them drilling for that. They actually drilled to do a first strike with nuclear weapons in South Korea. We've watched everything that North Korea has been doing with China, with Russia. They're moving things directly through North Korea, from China to North Korea to Russia. So they're all working very, very closely. And they're working with Iran. Like, it's nothing to forget. Like, this whole section, they're all working together. Venezuela, they're all together. North Korea now putting up, dragon's teeth and tank barriers. I think it's really clear what's going on. The framework in all of these countries are getting ready for a massive World War III. There's also going to be other parties. There's going to be countries in the next couple months. This is what I believe you're going to see. You're going to see countries flip-flopping or switching their sides. So just like Niger kicked out the U.S. Soldiers and said, hey, Russia, come on in, before the U.S. soldiers even left, they had literally Russian soldiers move into one of their barracks and building on their base before the U.S. soldiers left. So it's clear that everybody's picking their side. With BRICS, everybody is separating, and with everything that just happened with the U.S. freezing Russia's money and then saying, we're going to give it to your enemy, the entire world watched that and said, sanctions are one thing, this and that. But now all of these countries that have money invested in the U.S. are now losing complete confidence because they're thinking, well, if we do something wrong, if we're at war with our neighbor and we think it's a legitimate fight, but the U.S. is backing that other side, they could literally take our entire investment into the U.S., which almost all of these countries are directly invested into our government and into our treasury bonds and everything else, and in our country's money, then they could just take our money and give it to our enemy. That's a really, really big deal. That, of course, we talked about that when that happened, but you've got everybody picking a side. In my opinion, there's no option where there's not a world war. I don't think world war is the end of the world. I think this is going to happen, and I even think it's going to happen like in the next five months. So, and I'm not trying to scare people. The people that are saying, "Oh, fearmonger," it might not even affect us here in the U.S. It very well could not. But with the draft and everything else that's going in, do you not see all of the framework for everything being lined up for World War III? I do. And I see every country doing every single thing they need to do for a world war. I don't think it's all for show. I think there are some things that are all for show, that they could be all working together and high-fiving. They could be doing this because they came together in a meeting together at the UN or G7 or something, and they said, hey, we've got about 2 billion people more than we need or something. Who knows? They could be on a whole other level. They could be having disturbing thoughts of how they are going to save the world, right? We don't know. But what we do know is every country is preparing for war. I don't understand. I really don't get, and I know that some of you have this view, and I'm not, we should all have our own opinions. I don't get how people are not seeing this war coming. Even my close friend, he does not see it coming. He sees a power change and a power shift, but he does not see that World War III is coming. I don't think it's, I think people think it's so scary that they just can't imagine it. I think it's going to be scary. I think it's going to be big, but I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. This shows, this is just one story. We have 1,000. We could put out a 10-hour video putting everything together from the last 5 years. And if you saw it on a timeline, if somebody did a 3D timeline or something that was really well put together, people would see it instantly. I wish we could do some of the editing that some of these other channels do. Because man, if we could put together a beautiful a graphic or something that would put all this stuff together, you would see what I see. Unfortunately, it's in my head. It's like these time frames. I remember things like that. I remember things 5 years old, but I can't remember a face. Like, it scares me to see the patterns. And I think a lot of you see the patterns too, and that's why a lot of you are here. It's not because this is the best show in the world. It's because something we're saying here is resonating with you, and you see it too. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Anyways, sorry, that was way too long of a rant, but you guys get my drift. I really think that people need to get their stuff together. And I don't know. I guess I've always been afraid of, scaring people, but I don't think people should be scared. I think they should legitimately have a plan. And then Putin is to visit Kim in North Korea this week. Another sign that something massive is about to go down. On top of the U.S., and if you believe that, things are not going too well here, look at the people that are starting to get taken down right now. That's a clear sign that something big is... If you take out the critics before the event, that's usually right before the big stuff. If it's history repeating itself, even with the same people... right before a certain event, they take out the people that are going to really speak the loudest about it. That's happening right now. But yeah, during this meeting, what are they actually going to say? Dex, we've talked about this for the last couple of weeks, or at least since it got released.
Well, yeah, last week it was announced. Last week it was announced it was possible, and now it's official. So the dates are Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. Putin will be there. It's the first time he's been there since 2000, so it's about 24, obviously, years since that. And so that's sort of a big deal. It's a big sign that he's going to see him, which I guess is why a lot of people were worried about it when it was announced last week that it might be happening. But now that it is happening, the big question is what's going to come of it. We saw a lot that came out of just Kim going across the border and meeting with Putin in Russia. I can only imagine what may come from Putin actually coming all the way to Pyongyang and getting all the pomp and circumstance there. And I'm sure they're going to clean up the streets and make everything look perfect for him, just like we did for Xi here.
So, and the leaders meet in person like this so they can do it completely top secret. They have super crazy, insane rooms that are they're basically Faraday rooms that have no in and out. They talk in person. They work out actual war plans. I'm sure we'll see a huge chunk of time where the two are not seen, where they don't have their hours marked on any public schedule. They're going to go away. They're going to talk about whatever plan is about to happen. In my opinion, I think that they're going to meet in person. He's going to give instructions to Kim Jong-un. And he's probably, I bet all of these guys are giving instructions to Kim Jong-un or his sister, whoever's really in charge now. But I think they're making them think like, oh, you're going to get a spot at the table, that, they stroke their egos and say, oh, no, you guys are very powerful. We couldn't do it without you kind of thing. And somebody like Kim Jong-un would totally fall for that. At least that's what I think. No offense, Kim. Just saying I like my life and I'm not sad because they are scary and they've got sleeper cells everywhere. Anyways, but you guys get the point. Yeah. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then let's move on to the next one. We've got, of course, Russia's Putin is to visit Vietnam afterwards, sparking a rebuke of Hanoi. Dex.
Yeah, so he's going there. He's going there in addition. So obviously he's making a tour. This is coming hot on the heels of the U.S. making a lot of headway with Vietnam. But obviously there's, some opportunities, I guess, for them to potentially join BRICS, which I'm sure is what Putin is there to talk about, as well as maybe to bring them back away and shift that back away from the U.S. Now Vietnam has easily aligned with the U.S. because they have a conflict with the disputed territories in the South China Sea against China. So it's easy for them to say, hey, we can work with the U.S. on this topic because we're on the same side here. So it'll be interesting to see if that flips, if it changes, if they come up with something to then reshift, Vietnam back towards the communist era they had in the past, and the alignment maybe more so with China as well as even Russia for that matter. So will be an interesting visit, that's for sure.
Yeah, so there's actual plans being talked about in these physical meetings. Anytime they physically meet and they don't do a Zoom call or they, do something like that. The thing is that because I don't think these meetings are just for photo ops, right? They're not for photo ops for campaigns or something. You don't need that in Russia and you don't need that in North Korea. I don't know about Vietnam so much because I'm not familiar too much with their system, but I don't think that that's what it's all about. They're working deals, and what I also see is that they're trying to work around all of the other stuff like U.S. and the currency, and I think they're planning on what they're doing after all of this goes down. If they're going to cut the U.S. out of the picture, like the friend that always came along, but now all of a sudden you cut them out of basically cut them out of the group text kind of thing, then they would have to do a lot of work beforehand. And that's exactly the work that it looks like they're doing. Like hoarding everything, getting ready to be cut off from the U.S., trading land so they can import and export to each other instead of with the U.S., starting to use only yuan and rubles instead of our currency. There's a ton of that happening right now. Other countries are deciding to do that as well, which is terrifying. Now, there was a great comment here, and that was from Vibron. It says, look at Project M Bridge. It's a new CBDNC to buy oil. Yeah. Not to mention, did you hear about the plans that the Economic Forum has for everybody? They're making an app, and this is just the beginning. I think that they already made the beginning of it. Dex, did you hear about this? They have an app that helps you track your own your footprint, right? They are talking about like how much you eat, what you spend, what you travel, what you buy, how you travel, like if you take a plane, if you do this, and it's going to be able to tell you what your print is. This is just the beginning. Like this is the literal beginning. They're trying to work out how to actually track all of this. Then I think that they're going to use it to actually start regulating around how that print works. So say you're only allowed to travel 800 miles a year or something, or 8,000 miles a year, and you have to do it. If you've used up your plane time, then you have to do it by train, or if you used up your train trips, then you have to do it by electric vehicle or something. Like I could see they're going to do this around food. They're going to do it around everything. That is also what is happening. So even if there's no end of the world scenario, it is the end of the world we know. Dex, go ahead. Great comment.
Yeah, let them roll it out to themselves and then be transparent about it and prove that they're living up to it before they worry about anyone else.
Yeah, that reminds me of the movie The Circle. If you've seen the social media movie with Tom Hanks, which again makes a lot of he played that role perfect. But essentially, I shouldn't ruin it, but yeah, ask the CEOs of a company like that or something like that. oh, well, you be transparent. You have it on you. You put all your information out there. Let's, if you think it's such a great idea, then everybody should use it. Everybody should do it. And I guarantee you, when that happens, when they restrict everybody, it's going to be just like Songbird. The very rich are going to have their passes, and they're probably going to be able to buy them, right, to get around all of that. And probably there will be a pass that you buy, like, to go over your mileage, right? You have to pay a fee. If you're rich, you'll be able to travel whenever and wherever you want. But if you're not rich, you're going to be stuck where you are. And add another layer to that. Say you can't even afford it. Say you could afford it, but your social credit score goes too low. Then you can't buy a plane or train ticket. Sounds like China? Well, that's because that is. But that's what they're trying to adopt and talking about bringing here. And it's already partly getting formed in Canada. Almost said China. But yeah. And then Redonk says, this is not the best show in the world. It's only a tribute. Isn't that Jack Black? You probably thought of that because Jack Black's all over the news in the last day because he went to a JB fundraiser, and his jokes for the fundraiser were, oh, I had to cancel a lot of things for this. I was gonna do a bar mitzvah, and I was gonna do some guy's garage thing. Basically saying in his speech and in his comedy that he canceled so many of his little tiny events because he's basically out of work now. That's kind of like, why would you do that as part of it? Like, oh, you're going to get a celebrity to represent a political thing, but then have them get up there and basically be like, hey, I'm irrelevant now. I used to love Jack Black, but I here's what I hate. It doesn't matter if they come out for T-Man or anybody. I guess I'm tired of celebrities weighing in on politics at all. I try not to even weigh in on it, and I'm just a internet person, right? But these huge celebrities that are household names, for them to weigh in on a side of the politics when they don't live anything like us, when they live in their multi-million-dollar mansions, it's just absurd. It's like our representatives that buy $12,000 dresses and complain because they can't wear them to work. Like, that's a Toyota to us. That's a dress that they wear on a Tuesday. These people do not think like us. They can't represent us, so they shouldn't be giving us advice on how where to put our confidence. But that's just my opinion. It's almost too much of one. So Redonk, great comment. And that's a great compliment too. Thank you. And because I'm totally okay with just being a tribute. Vietnam hit by widespread internet disruption after undersea cables fail. Kind of weird timing, Dex, as far as like announcement. Russia's going to go to Vietnam, and like at the same time their cables get hit.
Yeah, isn't that odd that that's happening right now?
So how bad is it? Like,
That's pretty bad. They've lost internet. It's a major outage. It's the second in just over a year, but it's hitting all 5 international undersea cables are down, and all 5 of them are what serves the country. I think there's a map in the article. You can sort of see all the lines that run in, but an American gateway, a Southeast Asia, Middle Eastern Europe gateway, all these different gateways that come into Vietnam, and they're all down.
Now, isn't these things aren't like on the surface of the water. They're deep down. How did these things... Now, I know they've said before that these things have gotten cut by rudders or this or that. Maybe when it gets closer to land, it has to come up at some point, and maybe if the right boat has the right rudder, whatever else. But pretty much all of these, it looks like somebody has done them.
Well, we don't know they've been cut. They just said they're down. They're having failure issues on them. So they could be connection point problems. There could be repeating point problems. There's actually electronics in the water at different lengths where it, re-amplifies the fiber and continues the path. So there could be any number of things. To me, it sounds like some sort of configuration issue or even potentially a hack across their network. So That's what I would. I don't know, but they haven't announced any
The
of it.
big question is, because if they don't say it either way, you can't call anything a fact, because even if they do say it, you could always question if it's some sort of cover up or if it was cut, because we've already seen actual cables being cut, underwater cables at that, specifically internet, specifically to the small island of Taiwan. One of their cables got, and it was I think it wasn't a Chinese fishing trawler, and they said it was an accident. There's been a couple that were an accident. There was a couple that were suspicious. I think that was up by Norway or up by the Baltic states. But these underwater cables are extremely important, especially the ones that go from the U.S. to Europe. They're really worried about them cutting that. And then you look at the country that is at war right now, a major war, which is Russia. They have actually designed their internet. And when they did this, I called this out as part of the pattern. Like, this is part of the big picture. They created their internet so they could cut it off from the rest of the world. You do that because you're either prepping for somebody else's event, so you stay out of it, or you are going to be the event and you can totally contain your own internet. Or if there's going to be some sort of drama you don't want your people to know and you can cut them off information-wise from the rest of the world, that is what you would do. This is... People say, oh, well, it's been a few years you've been saying war is coming. It takes decades to plan something like this. We're not talking about taking a small little country or something. We're talking about restructuring the entire planet's power. We're talking about possible, change of hegemonies to somebody else. We're talking about a world war. Everybody is involved now. Look at all of the countries that are all involved in this. I think it's pretty clear. And then, of course, the internet going down anywhere, most people are suspicious if it's a hack or not. But is it practice? If it was cut or something like that, hypothetically, was it practice? Practice for what, though, right? And then the Secretary General in Washington, NATO makes America stronger. Make NATO great again. Mr. Stoltenberg announced in 2024 defense spending across all European allies and Canada is up 18%. That's almost 20% for all of the allies. That's huge. The biggest increase in decades. He further confirmed that 23 allies will meet the target of spending at least 2% of their GDP on defense. Over the past 4 years, the number of allies hitting that target has more than doubled. Like, we should do a sound effect for every time it's an obvious sign that they're building up a war. Mr. Stoltenberg thanked President JB for his leadership and strong commitment to NATO. He highlighted that NATO is making America stronger by advancing U.S. interests in response to the changing security landscape. Allies have put forth the most comprehensive defense plan since the Cold War, featuring more forces, capabilities, and investment. On Ukraine, the Secretary General stressed the need to continue to provide long-term support, arguing that the stronger support is for Ukraine, the sooner Russia's war will end. He welcomed the 10-year bilateral security agreement between the U.S. and Ukraine. If you think about like Afghanistan and stuff, how long are we going to be in Ukraine? Or I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that, but I bet we are. How long are we going to be footing the bill for this? Well, with politicians admitting that there's 10 to $12 trillion in resources there, I bet it's going to go on for a while. Scary fact, and this is something of a video that in an interview that has been going viral. I think it was the Sean Ryan show or something like that. The bald gentleman who interviews all sorts of military and really awesome people. But this woman, and it's over on my Twitter, go to @Marfoogle and make sure to follow. But there's a clip of this woman talking about how in conflict, right, with the terrorists that were over in the Middle East. So she said something like $43 million $43 to $60 something million, and I'm paraphrasing, but I know it was over $40 million per month or per year. It was a time period. Was going directly, I think it was billions, was going towards that country to the wives and the children of the people that they took out. So the bad guys that we took out, then all of a sudden that their wives and children were taken care of, because obviously we took out their husbands, right? Well, flip that back around. Why isn't that happening for all of that money is going over there? Why isn't it going over there for the women and the children that are here? They barely get squat. So again, the caption was, this should make everybody pissed. And I said, yeah, make it make sense. Why are we spending so much money paying for somebody? And it's harsh. It's like, well, because their parents just, got taken out. Well, their parents chose to be terrorists, right? Meanwhile, the men and women who protect our country are going over somewhere, risking their lives, possibly perishing. And when they perish, they're not taken care of. Their families are not taken care of. Certainly not millions of dollars or taken care of for school and for doctors and for everything else. You say, oh, well, the VA takes care of that. The VA is now, in many states, especially here, a lot of folks have problems with the VA. A lot of the VA kind of, loopholes and things like, oh, I couldn't do this because this, or the time frame, or I had this. There's a lot of things that basically they'll say, oh, well, you don't qualify for that, right? It's like, meanwhile, we're sending hardcore cash to other countries supporting their downed people, to their families. I'm not against, like, if we take somebody out, I even see how that could make sense. But why isn't that happening here? I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Go watch the clip and tell me what you think. Again, I don't want to say that that's absolutely verified. That's that woman's statement, but it sounds like it is. I think she got it from direct information from the government, but I'm not going to say that as a fact. Dex, did you see that clip on my Twitter? It's
no, I did not, but I'm going to go check it now.
If you can add that to the website, people should watch it. If that's true, it's horrifying. And again, with this, it's like, here's a quote: over 2/3 of European defense acquisitions were made with U.S. firms. Big money. And who's on those firms? Who's on the boards? Who's on the committees? The rotating door. They're usually ex-Congress or Senate, and then or they leave that company and then they go to Congress and Senate, and then they make laws and they help bills that help said corporations and firms. It's crazy. It says this was 75. This was true 75 years ago. It is true today and will continue to be the case in the future. In his speech, he said, he emphasized that keeping Europe safe and NATO strong is a vital national interest of the United States. So saying it's always been an important thing for us to protect them, because after them, they'll come at us, right? Well, back 75 years ago, I think we had less. I think that was less true back when we were safe because we had the oceans on our side, and they didn't have the tech to come all the way across, or if they did, by the time they got here, we could have picked half of them off. I don't know. Now it's a different story. Now they can ship them in, come in stealth-wise and even get welfare. Before we move on, make sure to go check out Energy. If you don't have a backup power supply, obviously you understand why it's important to have backup power. If you've lost your power in the last month, then you probably know. If you've lost it ever in your life, then you probably know. A lot of people have been going through storms in the last month and a half, so you probably understand it sucks not having power. So if you do want to get one of I think it is the best solar generator on the market that is expandable and modular. You can expand it up to 96 batteries. You can add different features, or you can keep it as light and as bare bones as possible and take it with you. You can either just have the head unit and one battery, or you could have 3 different attachments. You can have all sorts of additions like UPS, rapid chargers, superchargers, and 96 batteries. You could have a whole wall of lithium backups, or you can have a portable unit that is extremely tough. This solar generator not only can take solar panels, but it can charge from your wall. Highly recommend going and checking out their folding panels. You can get unlimited power from the sun. This is really important, and if you already have a gas-powered generator, like, well, why do I need a separate one? The gas, once you run out of gas, you'll say, oh, well, I'll go to the gas station. Well, in an SHTF, that's probably not going to happen. And if you think it's going to be like Walking Dead and you're going to be able to walk down the street to all the EMP'd cars and take their gas, I highly doubt that that's going to work for more than a few months or even a few weeks, if not a few days, because everybody's going to clean them out right away. As far as gas, if you don't have power, you're not going to have gas stations. In fact, you're not going to have water either. So having your own power is a really huge deal, and this is the best one on the market. It's tough. 1,500-pound latch system, steel reinforced frame, built-in heaters into every battery for extreme cold. And, of course, it is the same generator that the U.S. Army just chose for their STTR Phase 2 contract. So when they say it's tough, it is tough. And it is reliable. The only downside is it is a long wait. So make sure to get your name on that list. It could be anywhere from 3 to 7 months. So if you want to get this thing, this is an investment. If you want the best, once you have it, you're golden. But if you want to get it, you kind of got to wait and fight for it. Marfooglenews.com/energy. And make sure to use the code Marfoogle. Again, that gives you a huge savings, and it helps our independent channel. We are completely on our own. We're not, again, we don't have a multi-channel network, and we don't have a multi-billion-dollar corporation behind us. We have the Foogle fam. So thank you guys. And then Finland will host a NATO land command and troops. Dex, they're, of course, hosting all sorts of stuff.
As their new membership, they're getting their hands dirty right away. So they are looking to, and they will be hosting a new land command unit of the NATO military alliance. The Minister of Defense, Antti Hakin, told reporters on Friday, following a meeting of the alliance in Brussels. So, they joined, as you guys remember, we've talked about that last year, and they said, the quote goes on to say, "I'm pleased to state that in today, all NATO member states have given their political consent to Finland's key goals in its NATO integration. Finland will host a NATO command, and there will be land force presence in Finland." So how large that force will be, we don't know just yet. They didn't say specifically, but I would expect it to probably be fairly strong. We know that they spent a great deal of investment and time in the drills they were doing, especially some of the Arctic drills. They were joining in with Finland quickly. We also know that they have a huge border, obviously, up against Russia, from Leningrad, St. Petersburg area up to the Arctic. So that's a really big key area for NATO to defend and to have a strong position against. And we know that Russia rolled up its own troops to those borders as well. So we've been covering some of the border issues they've had going on with, as they're claiming that Russia has been doing specific antics with migrations across to their country that's causing problems as well.
Yeah, as far as like Poland and Finland and all these countries, so many crazy videos of them, what they're doing on their border. They're like macing people. They're throwing bottles back and forth, and not exactly how it works on our border. At least I don't think that's how it works. And then Israel, Hezbollah on the brink of all-out war, officials warn. Well, we all called that, didn't we? Our community saw this since like the first day. I mean, it's pretty clear. And of course, Israeli officials warn that the country is on the brink of a full-scale conflict with Hezbollah if the T group continues to increase its aggression in northern Israel. What do you think they're going to do? They're probably going to increase their aggression. The IDF made the warning on Sunday, just a day before Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was set to meet with Amos Hochstein, a top aide from President JB. JB's administration is pushing Israel to avoid a war in Lebanon, but IDF officials continue to highlight the outsized threat posed by Hezbollah compared to Hamas. It says Hezbollah's increasing aggression is bringing us to the brink of what could be a wider escalation. It says we are committed to the diplomatic process. However, Hezbollah's aggression is bringing us closer to a critical point in the decision-making regarding our military activities in Lebanon. So this is something that most of us see not going away anytime soon. It already passed a point that most of these countries, if you look at what they said they believe and what they are mad about, they're not going to turn around and say, we forgive you and it's all going to go back to normal. There are certain things that have echoes that are going to be lasting for a while. Not to mention media. Media has made this a circus around the entire planet. It's completely divided people, just like everything else right now. Subjects like this, it's either, people look, I've literally keep hearing people say, well, that's not our team or this team. This is such a horrendous time in history right now for the division that everybody has right now. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to get any better. And then China is almost ready for its war with the West. It's like, as we get closer, it's going to be, you're just going to keep seeing this morph into, okay, we believe in the next week that they're going to start a war. I mean, and then it's going to be war. And then everybody was saying, the nothing burger. I could understand saying, I don't think that's how it's going to go down, but, it's a nothing burger. I don't think so. I think the nothing burger people are going to see very soon that this is definitely a triple stack Wendy's burger. A Baconator. Dex, do you want to talk about what's going on here?
So, an interesting perspective talking specifically about the fact that as we just had the negotiations for peace in UKR, and by the way, just a quick update, we talked about Putin putting out a ceasefire option. That was denied. Kiev said no thanks because they didn't want to give up any land. They want it all back, and I think they even want Crimea as well. But nonetheless, we knew that was not going to happen. But they just had this peace conference, and that didn't really go anywhere. But most notably, Putin was not there, and Xi was not there. Neither one of them chose to attend. The idea of this coming from this particular piece is that while we're so distracted with what's going on in Europe, and while we're being also pulled into what's going on in the Middle East, and as you just reported a moment ago, things are about to kick off even bigger with the northern front of Israel. That's going to be a much different game than what has gone down in the Strip. So, as if that escalates to a much bigger level, that's going to pull more U.S. attention away. That this is basically the ideal time for China to take and move into Taiwan. Now, of course, it doesn't mean like this minute as they're talking, but they're saying, like, it looks like they're preparing. It looks like everything that they have been doing is to get into preparation, is to get everything ready. They've encircled the island. They've done the drills. They've gone over and over again. The U.S. is really not in a position to be able to defend them quickly.
Hoarded resources.
Outside of, or with the resources, because we're completely distracted. And let alone if anything else were to happen in the Philippines or North Korea, that's definitely going to just cause all sorts of chaos. So they're saying this is a total setup and strategy from China, and it is part of the plan.
It also looks like they might be trying to kind of coerce somebody to do something back to them, to where they can say, they started it, kind of thing. One mistake on Taiwan's side too, that also could be something. What if China one day flies just way too far in and somebody accidentally hits the button, or the jet responding accidentally launches or something? You never know what could happen with this. Now, as far as almost being ready. I mean, they've been hoarding all of their resources. They're to this point where it looks like everybody is almost ready. I think that this is going to go all down either like dominoes or all at the same time. All of these different countries looking at their neighbor are going to all hit the same kind of starting line. And then British tourists may face lie detector tests when trying to enter the EU. Yeah, it just keeps getting crazier and crazier and crazier. It's going to take me 1 second. Let me load this up. Hold on. Sorry about that. Let's see here. Sorry, Dex, my internet's going slow here.
Yeah, it looks like they're down. Pockets down, that is. So I'm having trouble too. But I could talk briefly about this while you see if it comes back up. But because I still have it cached on my page, they're basically saying that they're rolling out a new facial detection system in the European Union for anyone traveling in. And obviously the Brits do a lot of traveling in Europe. They go in and out. And they've said that they've added this AI capability to the software that can flag a suspicious tourist. Now, the question is, what's the definition of a suspicious tourist? Well, they're saying it's basically they're not saying it's a lie detector, but the people questioning are like, how can you possibly just look at a person and determine that their actions or their facial features or how they look at the moment is going to potentially be that something nefarious is going on? And that's what they're picking up, is they're saying that this new entry exit system of facial recognition and facial scanning is going to start basically taking people off the line, so to speak, if they got an idea that there's something off with them. And of course, there's concerns about discriminating against people who may be have disabilities or even an anxious personality or things like that.
ADD. So this is I talked about this years ago, and I said that this was coming because there was a Japanese test that they did with this AI-driven system, and it was a surveillance system. So say you put it in a 7-Eleven. This camera would actually watch the people coming in, and it would give you a rating on how likely they were to steal. And it based it off of their body language, their body temperature, their fidgeting, if they look over their shoulder, how they carry themselves, their gait, how they're walking. It based it off all of these factors, and it was like 98% accurate or something, 99% accurate. Maybe it was 93%. It was in the 90s up there. I think it was maybe 95. I'll get the story. And this new technology at the time, I said, this is scary stuff. It was purely from visuals, and it was accurate. They kept doing it time and time again, and they used it in real situations where there were real thieves. And it found all of these thieves before they stole, and they let them steal to test it. So these people that actually did steal, they didn't say anything to. They just let them steal. And then afterwards, they were like, this thing was absolutely accurate. Now, fast forward 3 or 4 years now, think about how far that tech has gone, especially with the new AI systems that are in place. This was with AI back then. I can't imagine how good these things are. Hence, when you go to a Walmart or something like this, now it shows you a big screen TV with a camera on you. And now, I don't know if you noticed it, but I noticed it mine. They put gates up, and they're automatic powered gates. They're herding us like sheep. I mean, it's insane. But it also slows you down just enough to where you slow down, and you also look up at this giant TV where there's cameras behind it. So everybody's going to, of course, look at the giant freaking TV, and they're going to go boom, and then it gets your face. This is going to be everywhere. This is coming. I believe this is going to come very, very soon to every business. And they're going to make it affordable too. So any small business is going to be able to do this. The hitch, the attached strings, is that I guarantee they're going to make it to where, it's very cheap, but you need to sign up we want to get feedback for beta reasons. We want to be able to get copies of the information to see how well it's working and to tweak it and to fix it. Leah made a great comment about the previous story there. Paying those families is like admitting wrongdoing. They were killed on their own lands by American soldiers who are the real bringers of terror. So there's going to be people on both sides of that. At the very least, that part of that is, right? It's like if you're paying the families, so their official excuse, part of it is that they say that it's so that family member or the kids, they don't become terrorists themselves or they don't join, right? But they could still join and get paid. Like, I don't know how that would stop them, right? Are they going to say, they're good people, they give us money? I don't think so. And as well, with how all of that goes, there's plenty of instances where we're not exactly the good guy, right? But I still think if they're admitting wrong there, then wouldn't it be wrong to send soldiers to that place in the first place? So shouldn't they be doing the same to the military families at home? So great statement there, Ilea. Thank you. I don't know. It's getting pretty bad. All right, and then Russia in contact with the U.S. over possible swap for the Wall Street Journal reporter Gershkovich, Kremlin says. So we don't know how this is actually going to go. Obviously, there's been a huge debates about the prisoner swaps over the last couple of years, like the Brittany Griners and others. The whole talk about this. I guess the good thing, Dex, is that they're in contact, right? They're talking to each other on the phone. I think that's more than you can say for, like, I don't know, JB in Saudi Arabia. So, heck, at least they're talking.
Well, yeah, and they also announced just recently that the court was moving forward with the case against him. So now there's a sense of urgency because with the court case will come, you know what'll happen. I can't imagine he's going to be found innocent and set free. It just seems like these are opportunistic pickups, and it probably happens on both sides. Opportunistic pickups where you use that as negotiation to get somebody else freed or get something else out of a deal. I'm not saying he wasn't doing something bad. I don't know. I don't know the whole story. We don't know. We probably never will. We'll probably hear his side if he ever gets free. But it's not like Russia's giving us a lot of details on their side other than he was, caught doing, espionage activities, even though he's a journalist.
Yeah, I've seen comments like 50-50 on this as far as all of the coverage that was on X. It's like there was 50-50. Some even thought that he was some sort of spy, that he was part of some operation. Most said, they were just grabbing him to grab him. And then, let's see here. Russian military experts suggest Kremlin plans nuclear strikes on U.S. ships. So is this very specific information that's getting leaked out that we're getting whiffs of? Don't know. But before we move on, I do want to point out, make sure to go check out Jace Medical. Crazy. I actually just stepped on a piece of glass a couple days ago, and I have to go to the doctor myself, and I tried to remove it myself. Something like that can turn really south really, really fast. I literally have it all messed up. I don't know if you can see this, but my foot is super swollen. My ankle is like non-existent. And something like that can go south really quick. Now, luckily, I can go to the doctor tomorrow. I can go to a quick doctor visit. He'll be able to lance it, open it up, take the glass out, and give me antibiotics. But this is recommended for the times when we can't do that. I literally talk about it. I was telling my wife, I literally talk about it all the time about how Bob Marley perished, and Mo said that he perished from this like cut on his toe playing barefoot soccer or something. I always forget to like verify that, but that's the rumor I've always heard, right? That he perished and it really originated. I do know that that's the truth, though, for many cases. People get a tiny thing and it turns into something bad. If you want backup antibiotics, again, this is a great option. You get to do a telehealth appointment, talk to a board-certified doctor, and you can get something like the Jace case. You get a huge discount on it with our code MARF. Go to marfooglenews.com/Jace, and it has a whole kit of great emergency antibiotics, which unfortunately I used I don't know, I had Z-Packs and things like that. I used them. So I don't know if that would have worked for my foot stuff, but again, it's like I don't know how fast they ship, but last time it was like 4 days or something. So make sure to go check. Go over and also check out the Jace Daily. They have a prescription supply system. Again, 12-month extended supply of your prescription meds. So if you have a regular medication that you actually have to take every day, that's also another really great thing. And then, of course, you can always rotate that in. And after they send you the year, then they keep it going. You can always rotate that into your current prescription. So you'll always have a year there. So if everything hits the fan, or if there's a big thing like Hurricane Katrina, or if there's 3 weeks of no power wherever you live, that is an amazing thing to have, to know and to have the confidence knowing that you have something there. So go over and check it out, Jace Daily and Jace Case, over at marfooglenews.com/Jace. You can also add things like albuterol and even other things that are harder to get. So go check it out. Now, as far as, you wonder what's true and what's not. Why is it being said? Everybody writes this stuff off because it's on Russian state TV. Russian state TV, of course, has to go through. They can't say anything. Unless they could say something, I guess, but they would get in trouble directly from Putin. In Russia, if you say something on one of their TV stations, it's got to be approved by the president, just like in China. Now, I'm sure that they usually, do it and then ask for forgiveness, but I bet they're probably pretty careful about that kind of stuff. So for them saying this, is it just saber rattling? Is it on purpose? Like, did Putin or somebody in their, admin say, hey, say this, we really want to scare the crap out of them? Or is it really some of that kind of stuff and the attitude that they have? To go specifically after our ships, that's a big deal. And it's actually quite hard to do. But I posed a couple questions over on our other video, which you should watch. Which, again, very good video that Dex and I just did over on our other channel, Marfoogle News. Dex, I want to thank you for today.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And if you want to watch that video, highly recommend sharing that out. That's a short shareable video. It's about 10 minutes long. You can go and see that right here. Again, that's at Marfoogle News, and you can click right here, or you can find it in the description below. Thank you, guys. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It is now time for this outro. It's not a shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.